All right, so are you ready to dive into the Bhagavad Gita with us?
I am. I am.
I'm so excited about this one. We are working from a translated PDF,
Okay.
and it's like a cheat sheet for life's biggest questions.
Yes.
Like we're talking duty, morality, even death.
Yeah, and you know what I think is so fascinating about the Bhagavad Gita is that it just drops us right into the middle of this epic battle.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and we meet Arjuna, and he is this legendary warrior
Right.
who's facing this incredible moral dilemma. He has to fight his own family.
Yeah, it's such a powerful scene,
Right.
right? Like we have Duryodhana, who is the opposing king, and he is like bragging about his army.
Right.
You know, he's like, we've got the mighty Bhima, we've got these incredible strategists.
Right, all the heavy hitters.
Yeah, so much pressure. But it's really Arjuna's reaction that I find fascinating. It's not just pre-battle jitters.
No.
This is a full-blown existential crisis.
Yeah, and the way the text describes it is so vivid. Like, it really, doesn't hold back on the physical symptoms that he's experiencing. Like, he's trembling, his mouth is dry, his skin feels like it's on fire.
It's intense.
It's intense. He even cries out, "My mind is reeling. I foresee only evil."
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just feel the weight of that decision
Right.
crushing him. And then he asks this really powerful question. What good can come from killing my own kinsman?
Right.
Like, imagine knowing that even if you win, it's going to feel like a loss
Yeah.
because it costs you the people you love.
Absolutely. And it really speaks to that universal struggle we all face, right?
Yeah.
That tension between what we feel we should do and what feels right in our hearts.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting. Even Arjuna's chariot plays a role here.
Yeah.
So his chariot flag features Hanuman,
Right?
who's a symbol of strength and devotion.
It's a brilliant detail.
Right? Like, talk about internal conflict.
It's like this visual representation of what's going on inside of him. But, it really underscores this point that the Bhagavad Gita isn't just some ancient war story. It's like this mirror that reflects our own struggles with duty and morality, the whole messy business of trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And then enters Krishna,
Right.
who is Arjuna's charioteer, but more importantly, he's his spiritual guide.
Right. This is where things start to get really interesting.
Yes, and Krishna, right from the start, he's just radiating this calm wisdom.
Yeah.
And he drops this bombshell about the soul's immortality
Yes.
right off the bat. He just casually says, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings."
Just like that, reincarnation's on the table.
Mic drop. But he doesn't leave Arjuna hanging there.
No, he doesn't.
He goes on to explain this whole concept of the soul's journey using the analogy of changing clothes.
Right.
So you ditch the old, you put on the new, and it makes something as complex as reincarnation instantly relatable.
And that's the genius of Krishna's teaching style, I think.
Yeah.
He takes these really complex philosophical concepts and breaks them down into these bite-sized metaphors that we can all understand.
Yeah, absolutely. But, he's not just offering comfort here. He's challenging Arjuna's entire worldview.
He's laying the groundwork for a completely different way of understanding life and death.
So, what does this tell us about the Gita's overall message? Is it just saying, hey, ignore death?
Not quite. I think it's more about shifting our perspective. Krishna is helping Arjuna to understand that his true self isn't this physical body.
Okay.
So death, as we conventionally understand it,
Right.
kind of loses its sting. And that's a pretty radical idea, even today.
That is radical. And then it gets even more mind-blowing when he starts talking about the three modes of material nature.
Yes. Goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Okay, so tell me more about that, because that's when I started getting a little lost.
Yeah, so these three modes, they're like these fundamental forces that influence every single action that we take.
It's like a personality test for your soul.
Yeah, I like that. And then he says something that really threw me for a loop.
Okay, what's that?
He says, see inaction in action and action in action.
Yeah, what? Huh. What does that even mean?
I know, right? It's a paradox. But that's where I think the real depth of the Gita lies. Krishna is pushing us towards this deeper understanding of wisdom.
Okay.
He's saying that sometimes true action looks like stillness, and sometimes stillness requires immense, effort.
Whoa. Have you ever, worked tirelessly on something,
Oh, yeah.
only for it to go nowhere?
All the time?
And you're saying that, the real action was the internal struggle.
Exactly, even if it didn't produce the results you expected.
Okay, mind blown.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get it. And it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
Krishna goes on to delve into the nature of the self. He talks about the power of transcendental knowledge
Yeah.
and even compares it to a fire that burns away impurities.
He's really shifting the focus from external achievements to internal transformation.
Right.
It's not about collecting facts and figures,
Right.
but it's about purifying our attachments and our misconceptions to reveal our true nature.
It's like he's giving us this spiritual roadmap.
Exactly.
Okay, but Arjuna, being the relatable guy that he is, throws some shade.
Oh, yeah. What does he say?
He's like, controlling the mind is like trying to control the wind.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel that who hasn't struggled with meditation or just getting their thoughts to chill out?
Yeah, exactly. So what's the solution? Give us some hope, Krishna.
Well, Krishna's response is actually very encouraging.
Okay.
He doesn't dismiss Arjuna's concerns at all. Instead, he offers this really practical path.
Okay.
He says that success is possible through practice and detachment. It's a message of perseverance.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's like this gentle nudge to keep going even when it feels impossible.
He's like our own personal cheerleader, but with cosmic wisdom.
Right, exactly.
And then things get really interesting. He introduces this whole path of devotion, bhakti yoga,
Yeah.
as a way to reach liberation.
Yeah.
And he even says, even the most sinful person can find redemption through sincere devotion.
That's powerful.
Right. It really is. It's a beautiful reminder that the divine is accessible to everyone,
Yeah.
no matter what their past looks like.
As long as their heart is sincere.
Yeah. And then things take this cosmic turn. Krishna reveals himself as the supreme Godhead,
Wow.
taking on all these divine forms and roles. It's mind-boggling. He's literally everywhere and everything.
So this is where the Bhagavad Gita goes beyond philosophy and enters the realm of mystical experience.
Right.
Krishna is revealing his cosmic form isn't just a power move.
Okay.
It's about showing his presence in every single aspect of creation.
Got it.
He declares, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun, and the moon.
I love that image.
Yeah.
So like suddenly every sip of water is a holy experience.
Exactly.
Okay, but then he drops another bombshell. He actually shows Arjuna this cosmic form.
He does.
And it sounds terrifying.
It does.
Arjuna is completely overwhelmed by it. So what's the deal with that?
So this cosmic form is like a visual representation of mind blown.
Okay.
It's meant to completely shatter Arjuna's limited perception of Krishna
Right.
and reveal the true scope of his divine nature.
Got it.
So Arjuna sees countless universes within this form, and Krishna declares, Time, I am destroyer of the worlds.
Okay, so we're not all supposed to have visions of Krishna's cosmic form, right?
Well, it's not meant to be taken literally. It's symbolic.
Okay.
The key takeaway is that a force beyond our comprehension governs the universe, and recognizing this force can help us detach from our limited egocentric perspective.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of detaching, Krishna uses this amazing metaphor about a banyan tree
Oh, yeah.
with roots growing upwards and branches downwards
I love that one.
to represent the material world and the path to liberation.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's such a good visual representation of everything we've been talking about.
Yeah, it really is. We're usually so focused on the material world, the downward growing branches.
Right.
But our true source of nourishment, the divine, is represented by the upward growing roots.
Right.
The Bhagavad Gita is all about flipping that perspective, detaching from the material and connecting to the spiritual.
Okay, so detachment is the key.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? It all sounds a bit daunting.
Well, the Bhagavad Gita offers multiple paths. Knowledge and understanding are key, as we've been discussing.
Right.
But there's also selfless action, performing our duties without getting caught up in the results.
Okay.
And of course, there's devotion, surrendering to Krishna and allowing his grace to guide us.
So it's not about running away to a cave.
No.
It's about changing our internal relationship with the world.
Exactly. It's about acting with awareness, clarity, and a heart full of devotion.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, that was quite a ride.
Yeah.
We've barely scratched the surface of the Bhagavad Gita's wisdom.
Yeah, we have.
But don't worry, we're not done yet. There's so much more to explore. So
Okay.
stay tuned for part 2,
I can't wait.
where we'll dive even deeper into this incredible text.
Awesome. I'm excited. Welcome back. I'm still thinking about that banyan tree analogy.
Me too.
It just perfectly encapsulates the Gita's message, about shifting our focus from the material to the spiritual.
Yeah, it's such a powerful image.
Mhm.
But you know what I like is that the Gita doesn't just give us these big picture metaphors.
Right.
It also gets into the nitty-gritty of how to actually live a more spiritual life.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that really struck me is how practical the Gita is. It's not just about these lofty ideals. It actually gives you tools and techniques for personal transformation.
Yeah, like when Krishna talks about controlling the senses.
Yes.
He even gives specific techniques for doing this,
Yeah.
like withdrawing the senses from their objects, just like a tortoise withdraws into its shell.
Right.
It's like ancient wisdom meets self-help.
It is, and it's not just about self-denial either. Krishna connects this self-discipline to a deeper goal,
Okay.
which is inner peace. You remember that line? One who can control his senses by practicing the regulated principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord and thus become free from all attachment and aversion.
Yeah,
Like, isn't that what we all crave?
totally. To be free from that constant tug-of-war of desire and aversion.
Exactly.
Okay, but here's my question.
Yeah.
Life throws curveballs,
It does.
right? Even when you're trying to be all zen and detached.
Mhm.
So how does the Gita address those moments of inevitable distress? The threefold miseries that it talks about.
Well, that's where Krishna's teachings on equanimity come in.
Okay.
He says, one who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger is called a sage of steady mind.
That sounds hard.
It is
Yeah.
challenging, but the Bhagavad Gita offers encouragement. It reminds us that this kind of inner transformation is a process.
Okay.
It's not an overnight switch.
Right.
You remember what Krishna says to Arjuna when he expresses doubt about controlling his mind?
Yeah.
He says, "It is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment."
Yeah. It's like he's saying, hey, it's okay.
Keep at it.
Keep at it.
Yeah.
I feel seen.
Yeah. And I think, that's one of the things that makes the Gita so relatable. It
Yeah.
acknowledges the realities of human experience.
Yeah.
It's not presenting this idealized version of spirituality,
Yeah.
but rather a path that recognizes our struggles and encourages us to keep moving forward, even if it's one baby step at a time.
I love that. And you know what else I love is that it offers different approaches for different personalities.
Yes.
So like if meditation feels like a losing battle, Krishna suggests focusing on selfless action.
Right. He says, just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage.
Right. It's like he's saying, find what works for you, but keep moving in the right direction.
Exactly. And I see that as one of the most liberating aspects of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
It provides this framework for spiritual growth that can adapt to individual needs and temperaments. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's about finding the path that resonates with your soul and following it with sincerity.
So it's less about achieving some rigid ideal and more about aligning our actions with our deepest values.
Yes.
And that's where the whole concept of surrendering to Krishna comes in.
Right.
But I'll be honest, that word surrender, it always makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I understand that.
It sounds passive, like giving up.
Well, that's a common misconception. But surrender in the context of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
It isn't about weakness or blind faith. It's about recognizing a higher power and aligning our will with that power.
So it's more about active participation in something larger than ourselves.
Precisely. It's about acting in alignment with the divine will, which ultimately means acting for the highest good of all. And that brings us to one of the most beautiful and challenging teachings of the Gita.
Okay.
The idea of seeing the divine in all beings.
Yes, that line where Krishna says, a true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like this call to cultivate compassion and empathy,
Yeah.
to recognize the interconnectedness of all life.
This is where spiritual practice moves from the individual to the collective.
Okay.
If we truly want to experience the divine, the Bhagavad Gita suggests we must learn to see beyond the superficial differences that separate us
Right.
and recognize the shared spark of divinity within every living being.
Okay, that's a high bar.
Yeah.
But it also opens up like a whole new dimension of understanding.
It does.
It's like suddenly every interaction, every encounter becomes an opportunity for spiritual practice.
Exactly. This is the essence of Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion.
Okay.
It's about seeing the divine in the mundane, in the everyday, in the faces of the people we meet, in the beauty of nature, even in the challenges we face.
Yeah.
It's about transforming our perception of the world from one of separation to one of unity.
It's like shifting from me versus them to we are all in this together,
Yes.
but on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. And that's where the Bhagavad Gita's message of hope and liberation really shines through.
Yeah.
It's not about escaping the world, but about embracing it with a transformed heart and a vision of unity.
The Bhagavad Gita, in its essence, is a guidebook for living a more awakened and compassionate life.
It is.
It invites us to question our assumptions, to cultivate our inner potential, to act with purpose and integrity, and to see the divine in every aspect of creation.
Beautifully said.
It's like a blueprint for becoming the best versions of ourselves, both individually and as part of a greater whole. But even with all this wisdom, the Gita acknowledges that the path isn't always easy.
Right.
There will be challenges, doubts, and moments of despair.
Absolutely. But it offers this profound message of hope. The Bhagavad Gita reminds us that we are not alone in this journey.
Right.
There's a higher power, a divine grace that is always available to support us. Krishna tells Arjuna, "Engage your mind always in thinking of me, offer obeisances, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me."
It's a promise of liberation.
It is.
A guarantee that through sincere devotion and surrender, we can overcome the limitations of our ego and experience the boundless joy of union with the divine.
It's not just about intellectually understanding the Gita.
Right.
It's about embodying its teachings in our daily lives, making those choices moment by moment that align us with that greater wisdom and bring us closer to that experience of unity.
Absolutely. And to remember that banyan tree, to keep reaching for those upward growing roots, even when the world tries to pull us down with its tempting branches.
Beautifully put. The Bhagavad Gita is a journey, not a destination. It's a lifelong exploration of the self, of our relationship to the divine, and of our responsibility to each other and to the world we inhabit.
We could talk about this all day, but we have to move on to another key concept in the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
Dharma, or duty.
Right.
It's a word that gets thrown around a lot.
It does.
But what does it really mean in this context?
That's a great question. Dharma is often misunderstood or oversimplified. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's not just about following a rigid set of rules or obligations.
Okay.
It's more about aligning our actions with our true nature, with our purpose in the grand scheme of things.
So it's less about following a predetermined path and more about discovering our unique role in the universe
Exactly.
and playing that role to the best of our ability.
Precisely. Krishna tells Arjuna that fulfilling his dharma as a warrior is essential, even though it involves fighting against his own family.
Oh, wow. It's a complex teaching,
It is.
one that highlights the sometimes difficult choices we face when trying to live a life of purpose and integrity.
Right. So it's not about blindly following orders or adhering to societal expectations, but about tapping into a deeper sense of purpose.
Yes.
A knowing that comes from within. But how do we actually do that? How do we know what our dharma is?
That's where the inner work we've been talking about becomes so important.
Okay.
The more we cultivate self-awareness,
Yeah.
clarify our values, and connect with our true nature, the easier it becomes to discern our dharma and act in accordance with it.
So it's like the clearer our inner compass becomes,
Yes.
the easier it is to navigate the complexities of life
Right.
and make choices that align with our highest purpose.
Yeah.
But are there any signs, any indicators that we're on the right track? How do we know if we're actually living in alignment with our dharma?
That's a great question, and one that the Bhagavad Gita offers some guidance on. Krishna describes the qualities of a person who's living in accordance with Dharma.
And these qualities include things like fearlessness, purity of intention, self-control, nonviolence, truthfulness, and compassion.
So it's not just about what we do, but about the underlying motivations and qualities that drive our actions.
Exactly.
Got it. So it's about becoming the kind of person who embodies those virtues, who radiates those qualities in their interactions with the world. It's about inner transformation leading to outward action.
Precisely. The Bhagavad Gita suggests that when we're living in alignment with our dharma, we experience a sense of peace, purpose, and fulfillment.
Okay.
Our actions flow effortlessly, and we feel connected to something larger than ourselves.
Like when we're on the right path, everything clicks into place.
Yes.
There's a sense of ease, of rightness, of being in the flow.
And even when challenges arise, as they inevitably will, we face them with a sense of equanimity and resilience.
Right.
We know that we're exactly where we need to be doing what we're meant to do.
It's a powerful vision of a life lived with purpose and intention, a life that's not just about surviving, but about thriving, about contributing to the world in a meaningful way.
And that, I believe, is the ultimate message of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
It's a call to awaken to our true potential, to embrace the fullness of who we are, and to live a life that reflects our inherent divinity.
Beautifully said. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yes.
I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
What does Dharma mean to you? What is that unique purpose, that calling that sets your soul on fire? Take some time to reflect on this, to listen to the whispers of your heart and see what emerges.
And as we continue our exploration of the Bhagavad Gita in our next segment, keep this question in mind. We'll be diving deeper into the practical aspects of living a dharmic life, exploring how we can embody these teachings in our everyday choices and actions.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll tackle some of the more challenging and thought-provoking aspects of the Bhagavad Gita. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita. You know, it feels like we scale this mountain of philosophy,
It does.
and like with each peak we reach, there's just these even more breathtaking views.
Yeah. That's the magic of the Gita. Every time you return to it, new layers of meaning just kind of unfold.
Okay, so today we're going to explore some of the more challenging, maybe even controversial aspects of this ancient text.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are we talking about?
Well, while the Gita champions this idea of selfless action and devotion,
Right.
it doesn't shy away from the reality of conflict, even violence in the pursuit of a higher purpose.
That's true. It's easy to kind of get lost in the philosophical poetry and forget that this whole dialogue is unfolding on a battlefield. Arjuna is literally staring down an army ready to fight.
Right.
And Krishna, who, is like the epitome of love and compassion, encourages him to do his duty as a warrior.
He does.
That's definitely something that makes people pause.
It does. I think it's crucial to understand the context, though. The Gita isn't advocating for violence for its own sake.
Okay.
It's offering this really nuanced perspective on Dharma, where fulfilling one's duty, even if it involves conflict, can actually be a path to spiritual growth.
So it's about discerning the right course of action based on the situation, guided by these principles of righteousness and justice.
Exactly.
It's not a blank check for aggression.
No, not at all. And, the Gita consistently stresses the importance of inner detachment,
Okay.
even in the heat of action. Remember Krishna's words. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress loss or gain victory or defeat?
Yeah, it's about acting with clarity of purpose,
Yeah.
not being driven by personal desires or ego,
Right.
which, let's be real, is way easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. That's why the Gita emphasizes constant practice and self-reflection. It's this ongoing journey of inner transformation.
Right, not a quick fix.
No.
Okay. And Bhakti Yoga, this path of devotion to Krishna, is a key tool for this transformation, right?
It is.
It's like this theme that weaves through the entire text, and it culminates in that beautiful final verse where Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
It's a powerful invitation.
Right? To surrender, to let go of our limited ego and merge with the divine. But you mentioned this concept earlier,
I did.
and I'm still wrestling with it. Doesn't surrendering feel passive?
Yeah.
How does that align with the Gita's emphasis on action?
That's a great point. The surrender that the Gita talks about isn't about passivity.
Got it.
It's about aligning our will with the divine will,
Okay.
about acting in accordance with a higher purpose. It's about letting love and devotion guide our actions.
Not just blindly following orders.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's more like a dance, this interplay between action and surrender, between individual effort and divine grace.
I love that analogy. That beautifully captures the dynamic nature of the spiritual path. And, it's a dance that's open to everyone,
Right.
regardless of background caste or even past actions. Remember how Krishna emphasizes that even someone who has made mistakes can find redemption through sincere devotion?
Yeah, that's a message of hope that really transcends time and culture.
It does.
Right, it's a powerful reminder that we all have this potential for growth and transformation. We do. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about the Gita containing some controversial aspects.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so the Gita's stance on violence, particularly in the context of Dharma, has been debated for centuries.
Okay.
Some interpretations argue that it justifies war under certain circumstances,
Right.
while others emphasize the importance of nonviolence in all situations. It's a really complex issue, and I think it's crucial for each individual to grapple with those passages and kind of come to their own understanding.
Right. It highlights that the Bhagavad Gita isn't like this simple rule book.
Right.
It's a text that invites us to engage with its teachings on this really deep personal level.
Absolutely.
So on that note, I think we've reached the summit of our deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita.
We have.
We've covered so much ground, explored some really profound concepts, and hopefully spark some new insights and questions for you to ponder.
Hopefully we have.
But remember, this is just the beginning of your own exploration. The Bhagavad Gita is a text that unfolds more and more with every reading.
It does.
It's this source of timeless wisdom that can guide us on our individual journeys of self-discovery and spiritual growth.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. May the insights we've shared today inspire you to continue exploring the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.